Dog Training Easy Vol. 1. 50 Tips to Train Your Dog Effectively. Audiobook. Written by Vincent Sapillo. Published by Audiobooks Revolution. Welcome to our audiobook on dog training tips. This audiobook is packed with valuable information that I'm sure is going to be useful for you. It sparks emotion, expands perspectives, and leaves a lasting impression, inviting audiobook listeners to revisit its pages repeatedly. Before we dive into the tips, let's start with a fun introduction. Did you know that dogs have been man's best friend for over 15,000 years? That's right. And here's a fun fact. The Basenji dog is known as the barkless dog because it doesn't bark like other dogs. Instead, it makes a unique yodel-like sound. Now, let's lighten the mood with a joke. Why did the dog sit in the shade? Because he didn't want to be a hot dog. All right, let's get serious for a moment. Scientific studies have shown that training your dog not only improves their behavior but also strengthens the bond between you and your furry friend. Training your dog is essential for several reasons, benefiting both you and your furry companion. Here's why. 1. Ensures safety. A well-trained dog is less likely to engage in dangerous behaviors, such as running into traffic or approaching aggressive animals. Commands like come, stay, and leave it can prevent accidents. 2. Strengthens the bond. Training builds trust and understanding between you and your dog. It creates a positive relationship based on communication and mutual respect. 3. Promotes good behavior. Proper training prevents destructive habits, like chewing furniture or excessive barking, making your dog a more pleasant companion at home and in public. 4. Facilitates socialization. Training often involves exposing your dog to different environments, people, and other animals. This helps your dog become well-adjusted and confident. 5. Makes daily life easier. Basic obedience skills make everyday interactions smoother. For example, leash training ensures enjoyable walks, and crate training can simplify travel and vet visits. 6. Encourages mental stimulation. Training challenges your dog mentally, preventing boredom and reducing the likelihood of problematic behaviors stemming from frustration or pent-up energy. 7. Legal and community expectations. In many areas, having a trained and well-behaved dog is not only appreciated but sometimes required, especially in public spaces or rental properties. 8. Improves quality of life. A trained dog experiences less stress because they understand what's expected of them. This leads to a happier and more secure pet. Key takeaway: training your dog is an investment in their well-being and your peace of mind. It helps ensure they grow into a confident, obedient, and beloved member of your family. So without further ado, let's get started with our 50 Dog Training Tips Volume 2. Tip number 51. Taking your puppy to the veterinarian. Taking your puppy to the veterinarian. Training your puppy to become calm and collected when going to the vet is necessary, since you would be doing it for the rest of his life. With that, for the first instance, you should make him feel as secure as possible, so that he would be relaxed. For example, you should place him on your lap while you're talking to the vet or waiting for your turn, instead of putting him on the floor. Tip number 52. Put a stop to your puppy's nipping and biting. Put a stop to your puppy's nipping and biting. Training your puppy to stop nipping and biting is important, since he can grow a full set of teeth soon. To achieve that, you need to let him know that it is not a pleasant experience whenever he nips on your hands, by reacting adequately, such as saying something that indicates pain. Aside from that, you can also stop playing with him, so that he would know that he has done something bad. Tip number 53. Your family is your team. Your family is your team. Get your family involved in training your dog. With that, even if they won't take part during the training sessions, you should let them become more familiar with the commands that you use. Aside from using the same commands, all the members of the household should also handle and train the dog the same way, so as to practice consistency. Tip number 54. Train your dog in accordance to what is acceptable in your house. If you don't want certain things for your dog to do inside the house, then you should train him not to do it. For example, if you do not want him to treat your sofa as his bed when he grows up, then you should not encourage that behavior. Do not let him climb the sofa regularly so that he won't consider it as his place to relax. If you want to cuddle him, just sit on the floor or put him on your lap. Tip number 55. Your puppy's jumping up behavior. Whenever your puppy wants to greet you or anyone in your house, it is quite natural for him to jump up. Reprimanding your dog for doing this should not be done, since it just shows that he longs for your attention. What you can do is to simply ignore what he is doing until he settles down. Once he is no longer jumping up, pat him or pet your dog, so that he would know that jumping up is not the way to catch your attention. Tip number 56. Reward your puppy in spending time with you. Although it is simply irresistible for a puppy whenever you sit down on the floor and call him, you should always see to it that he enjoys every moment that he spends with you. Once he sees how rewarding it is to be with you, he would be ready to listen to you. With that, it would make training your pup easier in the long run. Tip number 57. What to do when your dog is confused. When you proceed with more challenging commands, it is quite normal for your dog to get confused. When that happens, you should be patient and repeat teaching the behavior. Make sure to use the same word in teaching the command, so that your dog won't get confused further. Do it repeatedly, and be open to the possibility of having to do it again for the next session. Tip number 58. Be confident. Your dog can tell whether you are confident or not when you train him. He can see it in your body language, the tone of your voice, and how you handle him. You need to show him that you are confident, so that he can feel more secure in following your lead. Aside from that, your confidence level can also affect your dog's trust in you. Tip number 59. Learn from your mistakes. You need to keep in mind that in training your dog, you may make mistakes along the way. There is no need to make a big fuss about it. Just go on with your training session like nothing happened, and make sure that you won't make the same mistake again. Learn from your mistakes, since that is one of its purposes. Tip number 60. There is no need to compete for dominance. You won't have to compete with your dog for dominance. You simply need to be dominant by remaining the one that is in control at all times. Make sure that you know what you are doing, so that your dog would simply follow you. Trust is also something that you need to gain in order to become the dominant one. Tip number 61. Make it a point to integrate training into your dog's daily routine. Integrating the training of your dog to his daily routine can go a long way, as far as achieving success in your training program is concerned. For example, if you simply want to train him to sit down, you can always do that command just before giving him his food. See to it that he sits down first before you give his food or treats so that he can understand it better. Tip number 62. The importance of repetition. Keep in mind that whatever you have achieved with your dog today, he may be able to forget it tomorrow. This is where repetition comes in handy. You need to repeat the same kind of behavioral command day by day, so that your dog can eventually incorporate it to his regular practices. The more you repeat your command and the more you make sure that your dog follows it, the more it would become effective to your dog. Tip number 63. Practice fairness in treating your dog. Do not forget to be fair to your dog when you are training him. With that, you have to make sure that he understands what you want him to do. Aside from that, you should also understand his shortcomings. Be firm in teaching him to do the things that you want him to perform, so that you can achieve success. Tip number 64. Using the word no as a command. Saying no to your dog should be done at times when he does something bad. Using this word is actually quite effective, since it is very simple, which makes it easier for your dog to understand. To ensure that he knows what you mean, though, say no at the instance when he does something unpleasant. Tip number 65. Know what your dog is telling you. At the course of your training sessions, there are certain actions that your dog would do, in which he does it to communicate something. It is best that you know what certain actions mean, so that you can act accordingly. For example, if your dog suddenly stands still, it may mean that he is not very comfortable with what you are making him do. Tip number 66. Paying attention to your dog at times when he misbehaves. Paying attention to your dog when he does something wrong is good, but do not make it a point to only pay attention to him when he misbehaves. This is because your attention may become a reward to him, which would prompt him to do mischievous acts to attract it. With that, you should also pay attention to him more times in a day, and make sure to let him distinguish between being reprimanded and being praised. Tip number 67. Fixing your puppy's chewing problem. Chewing different objects inside the house can become a habit that your puppy develops as he grows older. To get it fixed, there is no need to hurt him, since it would not work. What you can do is to simply say no once you catch him in the act, after which, take the object from him and replace it with a toy that he can chew on. Tip number 68. Using the tone inflection of your voice. Your dog can understand your commands better if you make use of the tone inflection of your voice more effectively. The tone inflection of your voice is actually very important. With that, you have to make use of different tone inflections for giving your commands. By doing that, it can help him distinguish whether you are happy or not after he does something. Aside from that, it can also help you sound more firm in giving out commands. Tip number 69. The right time to start. The best time to start training your dog is when he is about 6 to 8 weeks of age. Starting at an early age is actually beneficial to your dog, since it would become a regular thing to him as he grows older. However, always remember that it is never too late to teach an adult dog new tricks. Tip number 70. Make a dog training a fun activity for your dog. You have to keep in mind that your dog expects every time spent with you as fun and exciting. With that, you have to make it a point to make every training session a fun activity. Thus, you have to incorporate little games in it, and do not forget to give him his treats, so that he would be looking forward to it. Tip number 71. How to start the next training sessions effectively. After your first training session with your dog, you may wonder how to start the next ones. To become more effective in it, you need to review the trick or the exercise that your dog has learned in the previous training session. By doing this, you are ensuring that your dog won't forget it, and would be able to see it as a regular practice. Tip number 72. Make sure that your dog has motivation in learning new tricks. To build your dog's motivation in learning new tricks or commands, You have to make sure that he has the desire to spend time with you. With that, you need to build a good relationship with your dog right from the start. Dogs are known as creatures that really want to please their master, and if your dog has grown close to you, then it would do its best to follow your commands. Tip number 73. Reward your dog after every training session. There are lots of things that you can do in order to appropriately reward your dog after each training session. Aside from giving him treats, you can also play fetch with him, especially if he shows signs that he wants to do it. This would make him happy, which would contribute a lot in his training progress. Tip number 74. Wear the right clothes and footwear. You have to consider that when you are training your dog, you would be engaging into certain physical activities with him. Thus, you need to wear the right clothes and footwear for the training session for you and your dog's safety. Use comfortable footwear that has good traction so that you won't end up falling down on your dog. Tip number 75. Choose the right time to train your dog. Some people train their dogs early morning, while others train theirs in the afternoon. In any case, though, you can select any time of the day, as long as it is not the time when your dog has just eaten his meal. It is not a good idea to train a dog with a full stomach, since it would lack the energy to perform the activities. Train him an hour or two after his meal time to maximize the benefits of the sessions. Tip number 76. Making sure that your dog is comfortable in going through training. You need to make sure that your dog is comfortable prior to training him so that he would respond well. To achieve that, you can let him go out first to relieve himself before starting your training session. Aside from that, you can also let him drink a few sips of water so that he won't feel thirsty. Tip number 77. Avoid games that encourage undesirable behavior. There are certain games that you and your dog may enjoy, which can promote undesirable behavior. One of which is by playing tug-of-war with him, since it can encourage him to pull his leash, bite at clothes, and so on. Think about the game that you are about to play with your dog so that you can ensure that it only encourages good behavior. Tip number 78. Effective crate training. Crate training your dog should be done as soon as you bring him to your house as a puppy. To do it effectively, you need to consider the place where you want to situate the crate, its size, the things that you want to place inside of it, and its bedding. Make sure to place the crate near to you, so that he would be encouraged in going inside. Make the crate as comfortable as possible for your dog, so that he would see it as his own personal place soon. Tip number 79. Taking note of important elements in training your dog. There are important elements that you need to take note of in training your dog. These elements are your body language, your tone inflection, your touch, as well as your scent. Incorporate all of these things in training your dog so that you would become more effective in it. Tip number 80. When to start training at a different place. It is always best to train your dog only at your own place, especially at the starting point of the program. However, once your dog has become proficient in following certain basic commands, it is time to take him to a different place to continue with the training. By doing this, it would become more fun and exciting to your dog, which can make him respond more. Tip number 81. Effective house training practices. House training is one of the challenges that each pet owner would face after bringing the dog into his place. One of the things you can do for it is to take note of the times of the day, when your dog would urinate or defecate. By doing this, you would have a better idea on which part of the day you would put more attention to him, so that you can properly house train him. Tip number 82. The importance of crate training. If it is possible for you to crate train your puppy, then you should do it. This is because crate training can help out in a lot of things, such as solving housebreaking problems, barking problems, chewing problems, and even separation anxiety. Aside from that, it would also help you to have more control over your dog. Tip number 83. Gaining better control over your dog. In order to gain more control over your pet dog, you need to be aware of the things that he wants to do, some of which would include playing, walking, and even talking to him. Keep in mind that initiating these interactions can also be rewarding to him. Thus, you should know when to initiate them as well as to terminate them so that you can control him better. Tip number 84. Calming your overly energetic dog. One of the ways to calm down your dog if he is overly energetic is to teach him some dog tricks. By teaching him dog tricks, he would be able to channel his energy into something better than simply running around. With that, you should learn how to teach your dog certain tricks to make him happier. Tip number 85. How to properly train your dog for tricks. In the process of training your dog for certain types of tricks, you need to keep in mind that you need to establish a two-way communication between you and the dog. This would result to you becoming more in tune with one another, which would make it easier for your dog to learn the tricks. Start with establishing the communication, since all would just follow. Tip number 86. Recognize the fact that all dogs are different. Recognizing the fact that all dogs are not the same can help you out with your training program. Whether you are going through obedience training with your dog, or you are teaching him some tricks, you should know that not all established rules about it would work. Thus, you need to be prepared in making adjustments so that you and your dog would be happy in going through the sessions. Tip number 87. Tools to use for teaching your dog some tricks. When it comes to training your dog for some new tricks, there are certain tools that you may want to use for it, some of which would be the clicker and the target stick. Don't forget the treats though, since it is the primary reinforcer, which can motivate your dog more in following your commands. Tip number 88. It is you who should make the decision in putting a stop to a certain exercise. Whenever you command your dog to doing something, you should be the one that make the decision to put a stop to it, and not him. For example, if you ask him to sit down, then you should not let him decide on his own when it is time to move from the place. This will help in establishing control over your pet. However, make sure not to let him follow a command for too long to be fair to your pet. Tip number 89. Learn more about your dog. Keep in mind that apart from the fact that all dogs are different, they also have certain things in common, and you can tell that according to their breeds. Thus, you should do your research about the kind of breed your dog is. By becoming more familiar of his basic characteristics, you can make it easier for you to understand him. Tip number 90. Invest time and effort. You need to keep in mind that you have to invest time and effort in building a relationship with your dog. It is important that you build a healthy relationship with him so that you can gain his trust and that he is happy to be with you. Just like human relationships, you need to invest a lot of your time and effort in your relationship with your dog, so that each of you would be able to take his part in the team effectively. Tip number 91. Building trust with your dog. To make your dog do what you want him to do, you need to build his trust in you first. Building trust with your dog should start at the first time that you meet. You need to constantly provide a feeling of security to him. Aside from that, you should also make every interaction with him a pleasant one. Never hurt your dog, since that could make him lose his trust in you and be on defensive mode. Tip number 92. Watch expert trainers do their work. One of the best ways to develop your skills as a trainer to your dog is to watch experts in this field regularly. There are TV shows that feature such trainers that you can watch every week for it. Aside from that, there are also lots of dog training videos on the web that you can access anytime. Watch these experts more, so that you can take note of important things in training your dog. Tip number 93. The fun of teaching your dog some tricks. Training your dog for certain tricks is fun, not just for you, but also for your pet as well. There are lots of tricks that you can teach to your dog, such as to take a bow, shake a paw, and play dead. Learn about the steps in teaching these tricks, so that you can have more fun with your pet. Tip number 94. How to tell if your dog does not trust you. Telling whether your dog trusts you or not is one of the best things to do prior to training him. If he leans away from you when you are trying to reach out for him, then it is a sign that he does not fully trust you. If this is the case, though, then you should not proceed with the training program first and focus more on establishing trust with your pet. Tip number 95. Handling dog problems. Handling dog problems is part of the entire dog training process. However, you should take note that not all dog problems are due to your pet trying to dominate you. In most cases, it is just a simple case of fear or the lack of trust, or even improper handling. With that, you have to work with your dog as much as you can, since it also wants to please you as his master. Tip number 96. Do the opposite of your dog's activity level. Doing the opposite of your dog's activity level can help you achieve certain things, such as calming down a very energetic dog. For example, if you act very calm in front of your energetic dog, then he can also calm down, especially if you ignore him when he constantly jumps up on you. If your dog is a bit lazy, then act more energetic in front of him to entice him to play with you. Tip number 97. Look at your dog's eyes. When you talk to your dog, you should look at his eyes to see his reaction. Aside from that, it would also make him understand you better. By looking at your dog's eyes more, you can tell whether he is frustrated or angry at certain things, which can help a lot in training him, as well as whenever there are strangers around. Tip number 98. Don't flick your dog's nose. Some people think that flicking the dog's nose can teach it to behave better. However, this can actually agitate your dog and would make him lose his trust in you. Thus, at any case, you should not flick your dog's nose, even if you are trying to reprimand him. Just saying no to him in a firm tone should already get the message across effectively. Tip number 99. List down your goals. Making a list of your training goals is one of the best things that you can do to keep track of the things that you need to achieve. Aside from that, it would also serve as your checklist of the things that you have already achieved with your dog. Moreover, you can also add some notes into it, such as the things that you may need to have, so that your training would become more effective. And finally, tip number 100. What to do when things get out of control. If all your efforts end up not achieving your training goals with your dog, then it may be a good idea to consider professional help for it. Choose a reputable dog trainer who wouldn't just train your dog, but also teach you how to train your dog effectively as well. He should know how to teach you how to supplement his methods, so that you and your dog would be able to start on a better relationship moving forward. Thanks for joining me on this dog training journey. Remember, patience and consistency are key. Subscribe for more tips and happy training. Your dog's best life starts with you. Peace out and see you on the next one.